Welcome back. All right, news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet for your Tuesday, June the 18th. And we'll start off looking at the preview of tonight's game. Obviously, it is win or go home for the Oilers. That game starts at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. And Connor McDavid saying basically he wants to drag them onto another flight to Edmonton, wants to make them make that flight to Edmonton one more time. It is a roughly 8 hour flight by my research. Now I know they have charter flights and all that, but yeah, 8 hour flight. It's a long one, and he basically said it's not enjoyable, and said to the press basically, "You guys know it's not a fun flight." So that's where the Oilers are hanging their hat right now. Just let's make them fly to Alberta. We gotta make them fly one more time. On the Florida side, of course, they can close it out tonight and win their Stanley Cup. Uh, Kachuk saying that they were nowhere near good enough in the last game and that they expect to be better tonight and have a chance to close it out. I find it absolutely hilarious that people are pointing out, oh, look, the NBA and the NHL are mirroring each other, so this proves that there's something nefarious going on. Why would you do that? Why in the world would leagues do that? Let's just go ahead and mirror each other. Why? So we'll see what happens tonight, but I'm sure if Florida wins, there'll be comments of, see, we knew because the NBA final was finished. Okay, sure. And all those other years they didn't mirror each other. That's so dumb. I don't even understand why leagues would. Because again, I understand that it's a curiosity and it's interesting. And kudos to the Boston Celtics on breaking that tie with the LA Lakers for the most NBA championships ever. Go Boston! But I don't know. I do expect Florida to win tonight, but I kind of expected them to win Game 4, and the Oilers came out and won it. So we'll see what happens tonight. The players will decide on the ice. Game 3 of the Calder Cup is tonight. That starts at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. And unfortunately, because it overlaps with the Stanley Cup final game, I'm not going to be watching the Calder Cup final tonight. That starts 3 straight games at Coachella Valley. So they can absolutely, if they win all 3 games at home, they don't have to worry about flying back to Hershey. They don't have to worry about getting dragged to Pennsylvania. They can just close it out in California. For Hershey, they need to win at least 1. If they win 2, then they can go home with a chance to win the series. And if they win all 3, they can fly back to Hershey with the trophy. So we'll see what happens there. But let me know your thoughts on that and your winners for those games in the comment section below. And then on to other news from today. Carolina's made it official. Tulsky takes over as the general manager of the team. Takes the interim tag off of there. He's got a lot of work ahead of him. There's a lot of guys to be signed. There's very likely going to be trades as well. The Carolina Hurricanes could look remarkably different come the fall than the team that was favored to win a Stanley Cup going into the playoffs and then fell in round 2. So we'll see what Carolina ends up looking like next season. We know that Brind'Amour is still going to be behind the bench, but that's about where it ends because the goaltending, the defense, the forward group could be a lot of change there. Some key guys are still going to be around, but the rest of the players around them could change. Elliot Friedman reporting that a buyout of Jeff Skinner. There's rumblings that the Buffalo Sabres could trade Jeff Skinner. There's 3 years left in his deal. It means that, yes, there's a 3-year penalty after the 3 years are done and all that. And once the season's officially done and we get into the buyout period, I will, do a little talk about buyouts and how they work and the buyout windows and all that. But it looks like Skinner could end up being bought out. Buyouts can begin 48 hours after the Stanley Cup final ends. And there's a team that's planning ahead. The New York Rangers put Barclay Goodrow on waivers today. Putting a player on waivers is the first step to a buyout. So over the next 24 hours, a team could put in a claim for Goodrow, meaning they take on that contract. It's unlikely a team picks up his contract. I feel bad for Goodrow because he had a good season with the New York Rangers. It's just his cap hit is too high for the amount of offense he provides. And so the buyout is on the way from the New York Rangers. And unless a team picks him up on waivers, but I would be very surprised if a team actually did. Toronto Maple Leafs news. The reason I'm wearing a Mitch Marner jersey. Darren Dreger's reporting the Leafs are more likely to extend Marner than to trade him. So we'll let that one sit for a moment. We know they're not going to trade Matthews. We know they're not going to trade Nylander right after signing him to a long-term extension. Tavares has a year left on his contract. I don't know how tradable that contract is. So if they're not going to trade Marner, if they're going to try to re-sign him, the Leafs will look largely very, very similar to the team that finished this playoffs and was out in the first round against Boston. We know that they want to bring back Domi. They want to bring back Bertuzzi. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how many changes are actually made in Toronto, and if there aren't big changes in Toronto this offseason, what does that do to the expectations for this team, and how difficult does that make it for Craig Berube as the coach to get them over the hump? Because that's going to be the question mark. Are the Toronto Maple Leafs good enough? And it feels like they're getting further away from their goal rather than closer to it. And so we'll see. Marner, I think, of the core four is the most tradable. But again, if they decide they're going to extend him rather than trade him, it's a gutsy move on some level. But gutsy moves can be both smart and they can be not necessarily as smart. So we'll see how it goes. But let me know your prediction. Does Marner stay in Toronto? Do they try to trade him? I know there's the no movement clause. Doesn't mean anything. It means that with a no movement clause, you have the right to refuse a trade. It does not mean that a team won't necessarily shop you or listen to offers. And it doesn't mean that a player does not move. We have seen plenty of players with no movement clauses get traded. Also, in the pending free agent, we thought they were going to retire category, Erik Johnson. Kevin Kurz is reporting that the Philadelphia Flyers want to keep him. They don't want him to retire. They want to keep him. They don't want him to go anywhere else. And Johnson's listening, and he is, considering coming back for a year with the Philadelphia Flyers. It surprises me a bit because Johnson's run with Philadelphia was not great. The overall numbers were kind of rough. The advanced numbers were kind of rough. But he is an experienced defenseman. The Philadelphia Flyers still in the midst of a rebuild here. So maybe bringing back Johnson as a number 6, number 7 defenseman as kind of a mentor to some of the younger defensemen. However you want to play this, it'll be interesting to see whether or not Johnson accepts a new contract from Philadelphia or not. And if not, who Philadelphia finds on the free agent market who would fill that same role as well. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Should the Leafs re-sign Marner? Because again, as of July the 1st, they could extend him. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.